Moments with Warikoo. Welcome to yet another episode. This is Friday evening. It's contemplative. It's a property where we ask questions which perhaps don't come with very well-defined answers, questions that engulf me, questions that I deeply think about. And the purpose is this interaction hopefully will generate response, will generate reactions, and perhaps might give the answer to the questions that are there on my mind. Today I want to talk about something that I think about a lot, and that's parenting. It's parenting because I remember quite often telling my wife that perhaps the only profession in this world that people don't think about as much as they should, and that has the highest impact on how the world turns out to be, is parenting. I call it a profession because it is a full-time job. For you to think of how you nurture a kid, how you bring them into the world, what kind of value system do you inculcate in them, and eventually, how do you as an individual determine and influence how do they operate like one in the future. And it's such a responsible job. It is such a position of responsibility that I don't see too many people thinking deeply about it, or even if they do, I don't think they think as far ahead as they should. And here is my question. We all have been part of the Indian upbringing system. We have had a world where our parents didn't have a lot of opportunities. Survival was the most important thing. There were a billion of us, limited set of things that they could do. Doctors, engineers, lawyers was just as far as they could go. So naturally, with no fault of theirs assigned to it, they made their choices not driven by ambition, not driven by passion, but just sheer survival instincts, where it was just more important for them to have a stable job and a stable income than anything else. And so how they shaped up as individuals was that they submitted to all that, ensured that this would happen. The education system was a submission. The choices of getting married at a certain age were this system. Having kids at a certain age was this system. Having a house and a car and that get up and saving money and buying gold whenever you had excess money and all of that, those were part of the systems that ensured survival. The world's completely changed. And yet, all the things that our parents didn't like about their lives, we're making our kids go through the same things. How many of our parents, how many of us liked our time in school or felt that school helped us from a point of education, and yet we will send our kids to school? How many of us were forced to go into engineering because we were told that that's the safe thing to do, and we hated it, and yet we will force our kids to do the same thing? How many of us, perhaps when we were really young, felt that we could be a great musician, a great artist, a great sports person, something beyond being a doctor, an engineer, and a lawyer? And yet today, when the world is full of all these opportunities, we will still force our kids to go down the path that is known, that we think is predictable, that we think is safe. It's almost as if we have learned what doesn't work for us. We figured what didn't work for us. We figured where our parents failed us, and we're making the same mistakes as parents. We're making the same mistakes as if we are just not ready to see how their choices as parents influence us as individuals, and how we are not necessarily as sorted as we could have been, and we will still make our kids go through the same thing. The question is why? Of course, I understand that some of us may be in a position where you don't have the liberty to take these decisions, but I'm speaking to people, and I know of people who can. They have the money, they have the power, they have the will perhaps, or I should say they have the money and the power, the knowledge and the perspective of why some things work and why some things didn't, but they seem to lack the will to make a change happen, to actually be comfortable with the fact that their kids might not ever go to school because school is just dead. Sitting in a classroom where there's one teacher teaching 40 kids something that has to be done in a year, and if you don't do it, you repeat the year, and if you do it, well and fast enough, you still have to go through the year, is just not the way humans are meant to learn. It was an outcome of the Industrial Revolution, and yet we will commit to that. Colleges where we know there isn't anything that happens meaningful. When you go to the top universities in the country, there isn't anything that life alters a student, and yet they will send their kids to the same college because they feel it will get them the same path that they are on, and they have their own life as a great example for success, and they would want their kids to replicate it. But the world's changed. The world's changed. We're seeing so many people who are going down completely unknown paths as a professional, as even a person, and still we will hold on to the same things. And the question is why? How is it that well-intentioned individuals with brains know on the one hand that this is where my parents failed me, these are the choices that I could not make in my own life, and yet the same individuals will fail their kids in the same way and will not allow their kids to make the same choices that they wish they had made as kids? I'd love to know your response to this. Until next Friday, see you all.